In West Asia, though, the picture looks very different. Business is booming there. There's a gold rush of a new kind. New unicorns are rising. There is an IPO boom in West Asia. What's an IPO? Initial public offering. It's the first time a company offers shares to the public. So initial offering. It's a way to raise funds in exchange for shares. Now, IPOs in West Asia are at a record high, and they're raising big money from investors. Why is this significant? Because West Asia is bucking the global trend. Around the world, there's a slowdown. The markets are bearish. But that's not the case in West Asia. I have some numbers. Last year, 51 companies went public. This was a record in itself. But do you know how much money they raised? $22 billion. That's an increase of 179% from the previous year. More companies are going public this year. Recently, a company called Presight AI listed itself in Abu Dhabi. Its IPO was worth $496 million. The issue was oversubscribed 136 times, meaning there were more applications from share buyers than the number of shares available. The demand was higher than the supply of shares. That's oversubscription. Before Presight, a company called ADNOC Gas listed itself in Abu Dhabi. This is Abu Dhabi's national oil company, ADNOC. It is the state-owned energy giant of the UAE. Do you know how much money they raised? $2.5 billion. ADNOC Gas is now Abu Dhabi's largest listed company, and you see the trend. This wave of new IPOs is likely to continue. It was kick-started by Saudi Arabia with the $29 billion listing of Aramco. Aramco, as you would know, is Saudi Arabia's state-owned oil company. It went public in December 2019. Aramco is also the world's largest oil producer and the world's most profitable company. It's hard to match that scale. There are only a few companies like Aramco in the world. The rest are simply happy to ride this wave. And the conditions are right. There's a lot that's working in West Asia's favor. The most obvious factor is the high energy prices. Plus, inflation is much lower than the West. And structural reforms are picking pace. The oil-rich Gulf states are well positioned. They have a massive corpus of funds, and they're ready to spend this money. When I say a massive corpus, how much money am I talking about? Nearly $4 trillion. That's the corpus of the region's 10 sovereign wealth funds, $4 trillion. This is bigger than the GDP of Western countries like France and the United Kingdom. And they want to spend this money. These funds have already deployed billions of dollars. Last year, more than $73 billion was invested. And who pumped in this cash? West Asia's top 5 sovereign funds. They're making bets beyond oil. They're investing in a range of sectors like renewables, climate technology, biotech, agri-tech, and digital transformation. So while the West fumbles, West Asia is upping its game. The developed economies are struggling. The war in Ukraine has put pressure on growth. Bank failures in America have made investors jittery. Europe is feeling the impact, but West Asian powers are projecting stability. They are the outliers. And key players appear ready to make big moves, like Saudi Arabia. For decades, it has used the dollar to sell oil. But now Riyadh could be considering decoupling from the dollar. Saudi Arabia is willing to do business in other currencies, like China's yuan, perhaps even the Indian rupee. Riyadh is said to have discussed this idea with New Delhi. The feasibility of a rupee-rial trade mechanism was discussed last year. Recently, Saudi Arabia also signed a deal with Kenya. Reports say Kenya will pay for Saudi oil in Kenyan shillings. Still early days, but the trend is promising. New economic powers are emerging, and West Asia is certainly among them.